So back in July 2015, Konami released the original Legacy of the Duelist on the PS4 and Xbox One, and it's a game I put well over 500 hours into, and spent upwards of $150 on in total, and now, just over 4 years later, Konami has returned to the game with an enhanced version exclusively for Nintendo Switch. So 4 years on, have they done enough to justify your $40 purchase? Let's find out. So at its heart, Link Evolution is essentially the same game as the original Legacy of the Duelist, the same menu and field designs, the same deck edit functionality, which I think is the best one they've done in the entire series, from like Tag Force all the way to even Duel Links, but it's a little more polished while still retaining the overall look and feel of the original release, which to me was a bit of a childish kind of look to it. It didn't look as stunning as Duel Links does. Additionally, all content from the original game, including its over $100 worth of downloadable extras, are included from the offset, which does make this package quite enticing. What this does mean is you're getting all the story content from the original Yu-Gi-Oh! Duel Monsters, GX, 5Ds and Zexal campaigns that came in the original, as well as for the first time, a properly fleshed out campaign for Arc 5, with actual cutscenes this time as opposed to straight duels from the original game's DLC offerings, that covers the entire storyline of the show, with a few questionable omissions in terms of duels covered. This does mean, however, that Yu-Gi-Oh! Reigns, the newest anime, does see the exact same treatment that Arc 5 got in the original game, with only 3 story duels, with no dialogue or visual novel style cutscenes, and that's all we basically get, so it's not really a good time for Reigns fans. Challenge duels also make a return, with some decks staying identical to their base game counterparts, and others seeing a respectable upgrade. I believe Zone has access to the Time Lords now in his challenge mode deck, because they were all available. They weren't available in the TCG back when the game first came out, but now, obviously we have them in the TCG, they're now available in the game. But like the original, none of the decks really offer that much of a challenge compared to some of the other previous Yu-Gi-Oh! Games. I know Millennium Duels had one of the most challenging challenge modes they actually have ever put in, so it's kind of disappointing in that regard, but it's still within the expectations of what Legacy Duelist originally was. And if monster animations are your thing, the game has some brand new animations for a ton of monsters in the game. I have a full 8-minute video on the channel going through every single one of them, and in general, they are higher quality than the original Legacy Duelist, but compared to Duel Links and Tag Force, they are a bit of a step behind, so just be wary of that. Where Link Evolution does differ though from its predecessor is the introduction of Link Monsters and Master Rule 4, the newest game mechanics to hit the TCG just under 2 years ago. For those who aren't fully caught up, this means that the Pendulum cards now share the spotlight with the back row spell and trap card zones, and that any monster summoned from the extra deck must be placed in the extra monster zone at the top of the field. If you want to summon multiple monsters from the extra deck, you do need to utilize the new Link monsters found in the game, such as Borosword Dragon, Decode Talker, and Linkaribo, to name a few. These are going to be essential to you creating more zones to summon monsters into. Basically, the arrows point to where you can summon, so it's a fairly easy concept once you get used to it, but it does require some learning for newer players. And this new rule set, to many people's upset, I guess, does affect the entire game, including the previous generations of story mode, which does adversely affect the playability of the crafted story decks Konami does provide for us, especially in GX, 5Ds and Zexal. There are multiple occasions where, especially in the Duel Monsters arc, I just couldn't play the deck as it was meant to because you can only have one fusion monster on the field at a time, and especially in the Dragons of Legend, I think it is, the Awakening the Dragons arc, those decks all require multiple fusion monsters, and you could only really use one of them at a time without, getting it off your board somehow. So it does, you do need to think a lot with the story decks. You could just go in with your own deck, of course, your own custom deck, you can use that, of course, but for those wanting to be as, pure and faithful to the story decks as possible, it is going to be a bit of a harder time for you guys to get on with Master Rule 4. And while it would have been nice to see Master Rule 3 return for the seasons that actually use that rule set, it's understandable why they didn't do this, because it would confuse some players, the newer players, that only really used to the original Yu-Gi-Oh! If they went to play, PvP with their friends or online, then immediately you're going to get swarmed by Link monsters and by this 2 extra zones, and you're going to be really confused as to why you can't really do anything, so it does make some sense. Speaking of ranked PvP, the game features the exact same options for online dueling as the original game. That is to say, there is no real ranked ladder, especially if you are someone who plays a lot of Duel Links and are accustomed to playing through that for your monthly rewards. Link Evolution doesn't have a system like that. Basically, it's just a leaderboard of the number of wins you've acquired, and since the game shares a player base worldwide, this means the second you turn on your game, you have to compete with people playing from the Japanese version who have upwards of 2,000, 3,000 wins already, which means if you did want to play the game hardcore and grind for that top 10, top 20, you're going to be playing a lot, and you are going to struggle because The player base right now online is a little bit flaky, but still, like, you're gonna have a hard time trying to top that leaderboard by having to win thousands of duels just to get there. There is also, unlike Duel Links, no real rewards for placing it high either, not even like an icon or an exclusive character icon you can use for your deck. There's really nothing at all, which means that, unlike Duel Links, there doesn't really feel like a reason to kind of come back to the PvP once you've kind of played a few duels. So if you have friends, PvP is going to be a very fun time, but beyond that, it really just depends on how much you like the format for this game. Additionally, ranked PvP matches aren't really matches, they're just single elimination duels. There's no actual match system in place, unless you play the player duels mode, which is unranked, where you can match up with friends or random people, and play with custom rules such as 8,000, 4,000, 2,000 life points. You can play with the turn counter, the time limit, to be as low as 30 seconds, which makes things incredibly hectic. I did a series back on the original game with that, and that was a fun time to play around with that. It basically makes competitive meta decks virtually impossible because they require multiple turn long combos or multiple minute long combos for a turn, and you don't really have access to that if you do play that 30-second mode. So you can have a lot of fun with the player match option, just playing casually, not really having to, worry about facing, say, a Sky Striker matchup or a Thunder Dragon matchup. You can kind of go in, play your Dark Magician deck, play your Crystal Beasts or whatever, and have a good time in play match if you really want to. One other thing to note as well is this game is very, very slow, and if you're playing online, it's even worse. Like, if you play Duel Links, then you'll know the game is relatively quick, especially when playing online as well. It's very fast, very fluid. This game is a lot slower, the actions take a lot longer to actually perform, and it can really detract from the enjoyment of the game. That's one of my major downsides with it. It was the same with the original Elixir Duelist, but now online with this game, it feels like it's even worse. Especially online, you do start to like feel the lag, the connection latency between you and your opponent, which you never really want to do. So if you're going to be playing online quite a bit, you are going to have a bit of patience when playing this game because it can really get on your nerves at times. So unsurprisingly, Link Evolution has the most cards available in a Yu-Gi-Oh video game, which shouldn't really come as a surprise since it's the newest one. But don't go in thinking you're going to be playing with all the same cards you play in the TCG currently, because like the original game, it is out of date by about a year. Basically what you're looking at is everything up to November 2018's TCG release of Hidden Summoners. That's what's going to be in the game, but there are a ton of exceptions. Basically you're looking at no TCG or OCG exclusive cards, so things like the Dangers and Valkyries in the TCG, or things like Crystal Needlefiber from the OCG, those aren't in the game. But if you want to find out if a deck or cards you might like to play are or aren't in the game, be sure to check the links in the description down below to community-based resources and to my own videos where I've talked about cards you can find and can't find in the game and where you can find them. So there's a lot of community-based resources out there for helping you guys to decide whether Link Evolution is the game right now you want to invest in to play with the cards you want to play with. To go along with the weird card pool, there's also a equally weird ban list. It's based on a mixture of the 2019 January OCG ban list and the 2018 November TCG ban list, and combine them together with the harshest hits possible. What this means is things like Firewall Dragon is banned, but other widely considered problem cards like Top Logic Gunblood Dragon and Rongo Miniad are still, at their max power. So again, if you want to see the full ban list, hit the link down below to my website and you can read up on what to expect from the game, because it is a very weird ban list. But like, the thing with ban list is that it will encourage you to play some unique decks. You can't just go net deck from YouTube from a TCG player. You have to kind of create your own strategies going forward. So it swings and roundabouts with whether it's a good or bad thing or not. So enough on the cards and what cards are not in the game. How do you go about acquiring them? Well, it's the exact same way as in the original game, with no microtransactions involved, using in-game currency earned by beating opponents in story mode, challenge mode, and PvP from the card shop. Here you can find custom-made packs based around each characters from the show, containing around 400 unique cards in each pack. There's a handy counter below the pack to tell you how many cards you've acquired, and there's also a counter below that says how many other playset you've acquired, so you know just how many more times you need to go into a box until you have the entire set. The cards available in each pack have been switched up and expanded upon since the base game. However, everything is logically grouped, so if you want Blue Eyes or you want like dragon themed cards, go with Kaiba. You want some Link Monsters, Playmakers pack is your best bet. If you want Sky Strikers, for example, go with Shea Obsidians in Arc 5s. Additionally, each duel you play in story mode and challenge mode will drop certain cards from that specific opponent's deck. I think you get 1 for losing and 3 for winning, so you can build up a library of cards very quickly by playing the story mode, but most of the high-level competitive cards, you're not going to be able to find them in those story mode duels. You're going to have to grind them out from the packs from the store and be in for hell, because This game is very RNG based with the card shop because a lot of the best cards are in the rare card slot. You get 8 cards per pack and 1 rare card per pack, and I've seen both spectrums of the RNG in effect. I've seen people on the Reddit talk about how they took forever to get Sky Strikers. I've had friends take very quickly to get Sky Strikers, or Thunder Dragons, or Burning Abyss or something. It is just a random, it's RNG to its finest basically. Draft mode, one of my personal favorite features of the game and something I have been advocating for them to bring to Duel Links, also makes a return and is exactly the same as the offering in the original Legacy of Duelist, which isn't ideal, especially with Master of 4 in effect. So in draft mode, you have 3 different battle packs to choose from: Epic Dawn, War of the Giants, and War of the Giants Round 2, and you can choose to either play with a deck automatically generated by the AI, or you can simulate opening the packs around a table with the AI like you would traditionally drafting in a tournament in real life. You then have 5 duels to get as many wins as possible with the deck. You can go against AIs or players, whatever you want, and then afterwards you get to keep all the cards you have earned because you do pay DP to kind of enter into this. And regardless of whether you win or lose, you do get to keep your cards, so I guess that's pretty cool, but the cards you get in the battle packs aren't going to be the most meta-relevant things at all. Now, this is one of the things I'm most disappointed with because Konami still didn't add the final Battle Pack 3 Monster League, as a playable option in the game, which seemingly wouldn't have taken up much development resources because the only real difference is the card pool. But additionally, all these battle packs were released back in the Xyz era when Xyz summoning was the prime focus, and as such, the decks you build, you kind of don't want to focus too much on the Xyz summoning because, of course, Master of 4 is in effect, only one Xyz monster can be on the field unless you bring things back from the graveyard and stuff, and it does kind of stop these decks from being as fun as they potentially were back in the base game, or if you're playing the format in real life, it does kind of hinder that a little bit. If you get the physical version of the game, which I highly recommend, you also get 3 exclusive trading cards, those being Proglio, Microcoder, and Sonic Codec, which I believe at least 2 of those are integral for cyberspace strategies, just adding to the overall value of the game. Funny enough, you can't actually find those cards in-game, which is to be expected, but still a fun fact nonetheless. So overall, what do I think of Legacy of Duelist Link Evolution? I feel like I've been kind of harsh on the game and it's sounding more negative than positive, but it's definitely a tough sell to certain people. If you really love Yu-Gi-Oh! Or a fan of the base game, then you'll love this game. It's the same game expanded upon. It really is just a more better version of the game without adding too many new features. If you played the original and you kind of have nostalgia glasses for the original show, the original GX 5Ds, you don't really need to play this. There's no real added benefit for you, aside from maybe some cards that weren't available in the old game, but beyond that, it doesn't really do much for those players that are interested in just specifically in the Duel Monsters or GX world, especially if you have played the base game originally. For me, the biggest draw of this game, aside from being a definitive edition with all the content, is 100% the ability to play this game on the go. With the original Legacy of Duelist, I was super bummed out that we didn't get a portable handheld entry. Back in Japan, they had Tag Force Special on the PSP and Vita, which I was personally waiting for a long time. We didn't get it. In the West, our close alternative was dual generation for smartphones, which I really didn't like. It was a very pay-to-win game, basically. And this game definitely scratched the itch of wanting to play Yu-Gi-Oh! In bed, or on a commute, or like I did, on a flight to Berlin for the World Championship Finals. That was a pretty fun time. And handheld mode is where I spend the most time playing the game. You can play in touchscreen handheld mode as well, so that's kind of a cool feature. It's not as good as Duel Links' touchscreen, but still, it's a nice little addition. And it definitely doesn't require as much time and investment as Duel Links does. To keep up with it, obviously all the cards are available from the go. You can just grind out as much as you want to get the cards. You don't need to worry about cards locked behind events or behind certain time things, so you can kind of come and go as you really wish with this game. Whereas with Duel Links, you kind of have to be playing it 24/7 to keep up with the meta, to keep up with all the new cards, but you kind of can go at your own pace here, which is why I think it's the perfect companion game for someone that wants more TCG in their life, that's a bit bored of the speed duel format in Duel Links, without breaking the bank to play competitively in real life, because of course the game is very expensive. This does scratch that itch. For $40, it's pretty good value, especially if again you are a brand new player to the Legacy of Duelist universe. And that's my review. If you picked it up, let me know what you think. If you aren't picking up, let me know what you think as well. Let me know why you aren't picking up. Maybe you just don't have a Switch. Maybe that's the whole reason why. Again, thanks for watching, and I'll see you all in the next video. See you then.